USS Harry Truman, a ceremony just filled with Navy tradition. Maybe just tell us a little bit about some of the highlights of your career in the Navy that rose to one step from the highest level of being an NCO in the Navy.
Sure. So I joined the Navy 33 years ago. My first plane ride was to boot camp in San Diego, and then after boot camp and training was completed, hopped on a ship, and that's where the adventure began. In the 80s, the motto or the call to arms for the Navy was not just a job, it's an adventure. And I certainly had the opportunity to live out the adventure, serving on numerous ships, sailing around the world, visiting every inhabited continent. In fact, the East Coast and West Coast,
Nick, we're on
every
Facebook
inhabited
Live.
continent as well. And I guess some of the things that were
Talk to me after the show.
interesting to me that you wouldn't necessarily expect for a Navy person is that even during the first Gulf War, when that broke out, we sent ships over into the Persian Gulf, and we were firing heavy equipment into the places that directed. We had some mine warfare going on where ships received damage, and we had to snap into action and to be firefighters and save ships. That's happened on a number of occasions over the years. But very recently, as I retired from my post as the Fleet Master Chief for Europe and Africa, I had the opportunity to do some more diplomatic things. And so I think perhaps one of the most interesting things I had the chance to do, particularly towards the end of the career, was to go to the African Union.
With, we're being recorded.
Admiral Michelle Howard at the time, and receive a brief on kind of the state of affairs down on the continent. And it's very popular that we because we're so closely related to Europe. Everyone knows about the EU and the how the European Union has connected all of those different nations there, and the euro, being the money denomination that they use there, and so forth. But I hadn't heard much about the African Union, so it was very interesting to hear how things were progressing down there when it comes down to the countries that are uniting together and seeking to have some common share in the things that they have in common. But my role in that meeting was to get to know, of course, the officials that were there, but also to assist in the professionalization of the non-commissioned officer ranks down in some of those countries. So I worked very closely with Nigeria and with Ghana. It was awesome.
Well, that's a terrific experience for you. And at your retirement ceremony on board the Harry Truman, Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, there was a moment where, an aspect of the ceremony where they passed a flag neatly folded from one sailor to another, each saluting the flag. And I believe there was 9 sailors involved with that, one for each of the steps in your career moving up the ranks in the U.S. Navy. And what were the keys for success? I mean, you talked often about the importance of chief petty officers in the Navy, and then being able to advance to being a master chief on a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier.
Because of our advancement process, the way you make it through each of the ranks in the Navy is proving your professional proficiency through a written exam. And so the 2 keys in advancement are, one, being professionally competent, and 2, performing as a sailor as a whole. And so for me, fortunately, what worked out is that I really loved being in the Navy, and I loved the structure of it all. And so it was easy to get connected into that. And then once I figured out the study process for these exams, and at the time there were 200 question tests. 100 questions would be on things like firefighting and combat and airframes, and then the rest of it would be on whatever your profession was. And so my profession as an information systems technician, I would be tested on those things. And so when it came down to the advancement in the early stages, that was what it was all about. But then becoming a chief and getting senior into the ranks, it was very important to understand what it means for leadership, and what it means for managing the processes, and particularly on board ships because we are a maritime service.
Sure.
The three things I would say are the best, the keys to, I think, my success kind of came from, as I sit here at my aunt's house, came from my upbringing in Oklahoma. I was taught to always have a good attitude, believe in myself, and to be committed to whatever I say that I'm going to do. And so that's what kind of became my cadence for all the folks that worked for me over the years. Is, first of all, invest in yourself so you can have something to believe in. And when you have a strong belief system, that has a direct impact on your attitude. And of course, with the right attitude, that determines your altitude. And so you put those things together with a strong measure of commitment and, of course, courage, because we're going to try you under fire, literally under fire. Then those were, I would say, the three keys to success. And I think they apply, Ken, to more than just the Navy. I think that you can take those three things and be successful just about everywhere you go.
And we're talking with Fleet Master Chief Raymond Kemp of the United States Navy, recently retired. And a couple of things I just want to ask you. How has your transition been going? I know you've been doing a lot of work on diversity in organizations. Tell us a little bit about how has your transition from the Navy since your retirement in August been going?
I'll tell you, very directly, Ken. It's really difficult. I started doing this when I was 17. I'm retired 33 years later. The transition into the civilian populace is extremely difficult for a career person. And I'll tell you why, from my observation, is not, of course, there's a great measure of camaraderie and, interesting things to do and so forth. But after being part of the Navy structure for so long, and then you retire, that structure goes away to some degree, but it's almost, I liken it to being, if you go underwater, to the depths of the sea, you feel a measure of pressure because of the depth that you're at. And when you come back to the surface, there's a measure of decompression that has to take place, and then you can carry on as usual. And that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm getting to the point now where the decompression is just about done. I'm no longer missing, the pressure that I had survived and worked under for so long. And I'm getting acclimated, but it's extremely difficult. And my encouragement to my peers is to, have a plan and have a structure so you can just walk out your retirement process, very thoroughly and patiently, and then for those who are working towards that, to ensure that you have a strong coping mechanism, for the change and the stress, as well as having a strong family and friend structure for backup.
Absolutely, and we're so proud to be able to hear your story here on WVOX and our Sons of America Legion Radio. One question that's come up today, watching some of the things on the internet, is how do veterans appreciate being recognized, certainly by civilians, people like us who were not in the military, but appreciate as much as we can what you did, those separations, those difficult days on board ship that we can only imagine. How do veterans appreciate being recognized by the public?
Well, I'll tell you, there's probably a couple of ways, Ken. For me, this opportunity to talk to you, Chuck, we met 13 years ago, and so for us to have conversation, to feel the sincerity, in your curiosity, is therapeutic, and it makes me proud of the time that I served. I would say for the regular person in society who may just come upon someone who's wearing a hat, if you have time to ask the question, first of all, yes, thank you for your service, but what, by the way, did you do? What service were you in? And give those veterans the opportunity to share, especially, I would say, the older veterans, the opportunity to share what they have done, perhaps places that they have been, and the things that they're certainly proud of. To say that I thank you for your service, that does resonate, to some degree, but we have made it so commonplace since the Long War, that is Gulf II, that I would say that doesn't have the same measure of touch to it that it did in days gone by. So I guess my recommendation would be, thank you for your service, yes, but oh, by the way, what did you do? And if you have time to have that conversation, there's a measure of fulfillment and satisfaction that goes with the response.
Well, we are so glad to have a chance to chat with you today on Veterans Day. Fleet Master Chief Raymond Kemp veteran of the United States Navy. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
Good to go, Tim. Thank you.
You're listening to the Sons of the American Legion Radio Report on WVOX AM 1460 and heard around the world on WVOX.com. And we thank today's guest, Fleet Master Chief from the Navy, Ray Kemp. Remember to check out our Facebook page, Sons of the American Legion Radio Report, and our Sea Services page as well. And until next week, remember to thank a veteran.